This is the second of 3 videos delving into the secrets of Albrecht Durer's Melancholia. Here I will be examining the geometrical underpinnings of the engraving. It may well be that others have discovered some or all of these features before, but if so, I'm not aware of them. Therefore I make no claim to originality. I'm simply setting out the extraordinary things that I've found in my own research. At the centre of the image is a pair of compasses, and they are held by the main character, the large angel. This angel has traditionally been interpreted as the female personification of geometry, and the picture as a whole is seen to represent the dual themes of melancholy, or melancholy humour, and geometry. This is also borne out by a gematria analysis. In the previous video, we saw that the primary language Durer was using for his symbols or emblems was Greek. And in Greek, a geometrician's compasses are tournos, and they have a gematria value of 790. This equates them exactly with the word Melancholia in Greek, and it gives the two themes equal weight. Now, looking carefully at the engraving, it is noticeable that there is a very powerful alignment. A straight line can be drawn starting at the centre of the sphere, going through the dog's eye, then the little globe at the top of the compasses, thereafter through the angel's right eye, and finishing at the lower corner of the square with the date. Finding 5 such strategically significant items arranged on a single straight line cannot be a matter of chance. It looks like the start of an intentional plan. What is especially striking is that the distance between the centre of the sphere and the dog's eye is the same as the distance between the compasses and the angel's eye, and it is also the same as the distance from the angel's eye to the corner of the 15 on the magic square. The line can be interpreted as pointing to the date, 1514. However, it could also be seen as pointing to the 4 centre squares in the lower half. If 1514 and 67 are indicated, their sum is 1581. And this is the gematria value of Melancholia, spelt like the banner inscription revealed by the bat, with the 4th letter an E or epsilon. And in Kabbalistic terms, 67 is the value of the 3rd sephira on the tree of life, Bina, meaning intelligence. According to Gripper, this is ruled over by Saturn, which is appropriate, and it is associated with the bodily organ of the spleen. And the spleen was traditionally regarded as the seat of melancholy. Albrecht Durer handily draws us a sketch of where the spleen is located on his own body. Now, a line drawn from the sphere to the blazing star makes an angle of 30 degrees to the starting line. And from the star to the corner of the date, 1514, is 90 degrees. So what we have here is not just a right-angled triangle, but one of the most important triangles in all of geometry. It is a 30-60-90 triangle, so the size of the angles runs in a 1-2-3 relationship, and the side lengths lie in a 1-2 square root of 3 relationship. This is an extremely regular triangle, and it is aligned with 6 extremely significant elements in the picture. The line from the sphere to the star has additional significance because it is divided by the golden section, or phi. There is a ratio of 1.618 between the distance of the star to the base of the polyhedron and the distance from the star to the sphere. The golden section was named as the divine proportion in Pacioli's book of that name, and we know that Durer was an avid reader of that book. The line also generates a second divine proportion, or golden section, although this requires knowledge of the centre of the polyhedron's pentagonal face. And the proportion lies on a shortened line taken between the edge of the sphere at C and the star. It's very appropriate that both instances of the golden section are dependent on the position of the pentagonal faces of the polyhedron, because the golden section is derived from the geometry of a regular pentagon. If we now go back to the original triangle, a new line can be drawn from the top corner of the polyhedron to the nozzle of the instrument on the floor emerging from the angel's gown. It has been suggested that the instrument is either the nose pipe of a bellows or a clyster for delivering an enema. For my money, it looks too small for the former option and somewhat perplexing if it is the latter. However, from a geometrical perspective, its most important property is the tiny eye, which makes an accurate starting point for the line. This new line crosses the original line at 90 degrees, and it cuts it exactly in half. Moreover, it cuts a line from the sphere to the star at 60 degrees. And it does this right in the centre of the main pentagonal face of the polyhedron. The effect is to create a new 30, 60, 90 triangle, in pink, within the original version. So we now have two triangles of 30, 60, 90. And if a line is drawn from the star to the crossing point on the millstone, an equilateral triangle is formed, which is centred on the little cherub. Next, one only has to draw in a line from the date to the centre of the pentagonal face, and the original large triangle is subdivided into three equally sized triangles with angles of 30, 60, and 90. The extension of the latter line means that the centre of the pentagonal face is now split into 6 segments of 60 degrees. And there are 2 points in the picture where lines cross at 90, 90, 90, 90 degrees. We can also see that 4 more triangles of 30, 60, 90 have been created in the kite shape, where there were just 2 larger such triangles before. That is now 8 triangles of 30, 60, 90, including the original, in which they are all located. It is almost a fractal pattern in reduction. The kite shape itself has angles of 120, 90, 90 and 60. And this compares to a larger kite with angles of 120, 84, 84, 72, drawn between the nozzle, the sphere, the pentagonal face and the date. The 2 kites interlock and share dimensions. And now a third kite can be drawn within the large kite by using the eye of the dog and the eye of the angel to define its width. And this has angles of 94, 108, 108 and 50. The presence of 72 degree and 108 degree angles in the kites suggests the presence of pentagonal geometry. If we look just at the large triangle in the base of the large kite in blue, we see its angles are 54, 90, 36. This is one of the building blocks of a regular pentagon. And there are actually 2 of these triangles mirrored in the kite. and in a regular pentagon they are mirrored too. With 4 such triangles meeting at 90 degrees, a rhombus is formed, with 2 angles of 72 degrees and 2 of 108 degrees. If the rhombus is then truncated, we find an irregular pentagon shaped like the faces on the polyhedron. This has 2 angles of 126 degrees and 2 of 108 and 1 of 72. And it's possible to find this shape on the engraving by taking the 2 large triangles of 54, 90, 36 as its starting point. The line extending left and slightly up from the date has an angle of 108 degrees if drawn at a tangent to the Melancholia banner. The corresponding line from the stone sphere is drawn towards the fork point of the claw hammer. The top line, making 2 more angles of 126 degrees, runs through the rivet in the eye of the hammer, in the head of the hammer, and to the centre point of the decoration beneath the fulcrum of the scales. I think it is significant that this polygon can be drawn to represent a 2-dimensional version of the polyhedron. It may be intended to provide a control for the angles of the polyhedron's 6 pentagonal faces. If the angles of this construction are there for a reason, there is not really enough evidence to say what that reason is. However, one can speculate. The 126-degree angles may point to the gematria value of the Hebrew word for perfect beauty, michlol. The 108-degree angles could point to Hechel, the golden calf, or to Mot Even, a stumbling stone. In other words, the quest for perfect beauty ends with a graven image, a molten idol, an offence to God. It's not possible to make. The 72-degree point might logically refer to the 72 names of God in the Kabbalah. And if Greek Kabbalah was called upon, 72 would supply the truth, he aletheia. And the total angles, amounting to 540 degrees, could give the word krisis, meaning judgment or decision, and from which the modern English word crisis devolves. However, all of this is speculative, and it may or may not be true. There's no supporting evidence for it. It's just a possibility. However, firmer ground is reached when a pair of compasses is applied to draw a circle centred on the node at the millstone and running through the centre point of the polyhedron's face. A second circle can then be drawn from the latter point, and then a third with its centre on the cherub's shoulder where the other 2 circles intersect. It will be seen that this circle runs through the point at the edge of the date and through the star. These 3 circles now form the basis for the construction of a regular pentagon. First, 2 construction lines need to be drawn. These, in dark blue, run from the intersection points of the lower circle with the upper circles, and then they cross on its circumference on the centre, about which the 2 upper circles are mirrored. We now have 2 more points, the green dots, on the upper circles, where we can centre the compasses to draw arcs. And now this completes the 5 vertices of the pentagon. And the blazing star is revealed in the upper centre of the pentagon. and its lower corner is in the centre of the pentagonal face of the polyhedron. One point of interest is that the eye of the angel is aligned with two corners, vertices of the pentagon, and the eye of the dog is aligned with two separate vertices. If this was a manual on optics, we could say that both eyes were focusing on the Melancholia inscription, which would then appear reversed. Now, wherever there's a pentagon constructed from interlocking circles, there's a hexagon waiting in the wings. This one is centred on the millstone. And when we get rid of the distracting circles, we see it exactly cut into quarters by the original construction lines from the sphere to the date and from the nozzle to the polyhedron centre. It can also be extended down to the sphere by the addition of an equilateral triangle, and extended up to the date by means of another triangle of identical proportions. Thus we now have a rhombus pointing from the sphere to the date. And with one triangle removed, we have an irregular pentagon shaped like the pentagonal face of the polyhedron. Only in this case, the pointy end is 60 degrees rather than the 72 degrees considered earlier. Now it's time for a new circle. This has the same starting point as the first, the intersection point on the millstone, but its circumference is defined by the eyes of the dog and the angel. The two eyes and the previous construction lines help to divide it neatly into quarters. At this point, those construction lines give rise to two more instances of the golden section. First, we can see that the distance from the centre of the sphere to the date is the same as that between the nozzle and the far perimeter of the circle, BA. Both of these lengths are within a phi ratio of the circle's diameter, CD. This may lead to another pentagonal construction, although I've not yet worked out any reason why these two phi ratios should be here. And now a second circle with the same dimensions can be drawn centred on the angel's eye. This is significant because a line drawn through the two intersection points, the centre line of the new vesica piscis, goes directly to the bat's eye. So this construction now links all of the open eyes in the picture except for the left eye of the angel. Next, if lines are drawn from the bat's eye at tangents to the two circles, the angle between them is found to be 90 degrees. The interlocking circles are therefore contained in a square, one corner of which is located at the bat's eye, and whose diagonal runs from the bat's eye and bisects the vesica piscis where the circles join. The other diagonal runs through the handle of the compasses. And if this line marks the hypotenuse of a right-angled triangle, its angles will be 45, 45, 90 degrees, and its side lengths will be in a 1 to square root of 2 relationship. A second 90-degree angle also occurs at the bat's eye. This happens when one line is drawn from the eye to the centre of the sphere, and then a perpendicular can be drawn from the eye level with the top of the magic square. The two 90-degree angles at the eye are offset by 3 degrees, or 1/120th of a complete revolution. I'm not sure of the significance of this, although it might refer to a measurement of time, maybe 1/120th of the great year of precession. So if we take 1/120th of 25,920, we get 216 years, which is 6 cubed, or 3 cubed plus 4 cubed plus 5 cubed. 216 was a number of great significance to Plato, and those wishing to dive deeper down this rabbit hole might find Chapter 5 of Alistair Fowler's book, Spencer and the Numbers of Time, to reward a thorough reading. Now, a number of people have commented on the stone sphere, and it's widely regarded to have a radius measured by the setting of the compasses in the angel's lap. However, this is not measurable, since neither tip of the compasses can be seen. However, the two-dimensional area of the circle is the same as the area around the magic square. This gives us a squaring of the circle at either end of the original geometric construction line. The outside edge of the rainbow also makes a large circle. Now, it has to be said that this is not perfectly circular. The side-to-side diameter is slightly larger than the top-to-bottom diameter. As a squashed circle, it looks slightly like an exaggerated view of the Earth with its equatorial bulge. A smaller circle can also be drawn using the interior circumference of the rainbow. And it has been noted that 3 of the spheres will fit exactly into the rainbow circle. However, this isn't strictly true. The 3 spheres are just a bit bigger than the inner circle and quite a lot smaller than the outer circle. I'm not aware if anyone has noticed, but actually you can get 3.1415926 of the spheres into the outer circle. This obviously is the pi ratio. One can also play around with patterns of 5 or 7 such small circles within the rainbow. And I'll come back to this symbolism of wheels within wheels in the following video. From a perspective of geometry, the greatest interest in the picture has always focused on the polyhedron. Technically, this is a truncated rhombohedron. A rhombohedron is a cube that has been skewed, so the faces are no longer square but rhomboid like a diamond. The truncated part means that 2 corners have been cut off, and in the engraving this leaves a flat surface at the top and a flat base. I'm not sure if there's any gematria significance accruing to the word rhombos. In classical Greek, a rhombos means something that can be spun, or a magic wheel. Our present-day understanding of a rhombus as a squashed square was only the 3rd meaning in antiquity. The idea of this shape spinning would seem to fit with the commonly touted theory that the truncation of the shape, the cutting of 2 corners, allows all its vertices, or corners, to fit on the surface of a circumsphere. However, this doesn't really begin to work in 2 dimensions. So I'm a little sceptical that it is possible in 3. However, there may be deliberate significance in the angles embodied by the shape. The 2 triangular faces have 6 angles of 60 degrees, and therefore a total of 360 degrees. And the 6 pentagonal faces of 540 give a total of 3,240. The complete figure thus has 3,600 degrees in all its angles. The 360 degrees suggests the perfection of a circle, or possibly a square, and 3,600 being 10 times this amount may signify a microcosm-macrocosm relationship. Again, these numbers based on 36 were all significant to Plato, and analysis of paragraph 546 of the Republic in James Adams' 1929 study on the Republic will be enlightening for the dedicated scholar. Personally, I like the fact that the ratio of 360 to 3600 is 0.1, and 360 to 3240 is 0.111111111, recurring forever. This seems to signify the unity of the divine, and possibly the relationship between God and man. Albrecht Durer was nothing if not pious, and his respect for the divine architect was immeasurable. If you enjoyed this video, please click on like and leave any comments, and watch out for the third coming up, which will be all about Melancholia and the Kabbalah.